All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another surprise episode of Bet the Over. I'm your co host, Kev. Today, we will be breaking down the breaking news that came out earlier this afternoon. Um, as you can tell, we usually record on Sundays. Me and my co host, Steve, he's not here with me. However, I'm doing a solo episode due to the new starting quarterback of the New York Giants, who is going to be Russell Wilson. So, yes, at around 6 o'clock p.m., the news broke that the Giants did indeed sign Danger Russ to a 1 year deal totaling $21 million. His guarantee is only 10.5 million, which is actually pretty good value considering the quarterback market last year and including this year. The market in general has completely exploded. So, we're going to get into both the quarterbacks now. So, we got Danger Russ, we just went over his contract, and then we got Jameis at 2 years, $8 million. So between those two quarterbacks, we are spending a total combined of $29 million. Now, in comparison to the rest of the league, that's really not that much. And if you compare it to last year's starting quarterback, Daniel Jones, he was getting paid $40 million per year. So the Giants are saving $11 million between the two quarterbacks. And in my opinion, this is a much better situation to be in because I believe that Russ, and you can even make an argument that Jameis is better than Daniel Jones. So you're getting one good starting quarterback in Russ and one really good backup in Jameis, and you're saving $11 million in the meantime. While Daniel Jones currently is on the Colts, actually. So overall, I think these two signings were good for the Giants. I don't know if that's going to change their draft strategy coming up in June or no, April. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in that. But now let's break down both these players. So obviously we got Russ. Last year he didn't start the entire season. The Steelers actually started with Justin Fields, who went to another New York team in the Jets, and we broke that down in the last episode. But Russ started 11 games last year with a completion percentage of 63.7%. And in those 11 games, Russ threw 16 touchdowns and he threw 5 picks. So, for the most part, his TD to interception ratio was pretty good. His completion percentage was also not too bad. And it's better than Jameis, who we're going to break down now. Jameis actually played 12 games instead of Russ's 11. He had a 61.1% completion percentage. He had 13 touchdowns and he had 12 interceptions. So overall, Russ seems like the more efficient quarterback. Now, if we're going in terms of excitement factor, Jameis is definitely the guy because, as we mentioned previously, Jameis lights it up. He lets it fly. He's a loose cannon for sure. However, I do think Russ is the higher quality starting quarterback. So the Giants definitely would probably go with Russ. I mean, obviously, you never know what happens in training camp, but I'd say there's like an 85% chance they're going to stick it out with Danger Russ. Um, Originally, when the signing dropped, I did think that I didn't think Russ had as good of a year as he actually did. I was kind of like neutral about the signing. However, when you go back and look at the stats, he did pretty well. I mean, 11 games, 16 touchdowns. So he's throwing slightly less than two. He's throwing like 1.5 touchdowns per game. And he throws one pick every 2 games, just about. So he's very safe with the football, which is nice because, I mean, Daniel Jones was a fumbling and interception machine. And he's kind of like the opposite of Jameis, who is also a turnover machine. So it's going to be interesting to watch because I feel like both these quarterbacks kind of play the game differently. Um, I like the signing also as well, just because both these quarterbacks are good locker room guys. If the Giants do end up drafting a rookie, they're two good veteran quarterbacks that could kind of mold the rookie potentially. Um, And down at the bottom, looking on my Google Sheets. So Wilson showed efficiency and he's a leader, like I said before. Winston, despite the turnovers, bring experience and depth. And yeah, so both these guys have been around the league for a while. So both these quarterbacks are veterans and they're significantly cheaper than what Daniel Jones was being paid last year. So now what I'll get into is how this affects the Giants 2025 draft. So obviously now the Giants have three quarterbacks on the roster. They got Tommy Cutlets, they got Jameis Winston, and they got Danger Russ now. So it's kind of seeming like they're might not draft a quarterback anymore. I mean, obviously when draft comes around, everything's in play, whether he's whether they want to take Shedeur at 3, whether they want to trade down and potentially go for more picks loading up for next year's draft, because it seems like next year's draft is going to be more quarterback, uh, quality quarterback play, or maybe they'll just stick and pick and take the best player available. So as of right now, I think this move kind of signifies they don't really want to take Shedeur at 3. They might, but I don't think they will. In my opinion, I don't think they should have taken Shedeur anyway, because I don't think he's a true first round talent, especially not at 3. You can argue maybe mid round or late round you take Shedeur, a shot on Shedeur. However, the third overall pick does seem kind of rich for me, in my opinion. So as of right now, if the board goes how it's projected to go, I think right now it's expected Tennessee to go Cam Ward, Cleveland to go Abdul Carter. So then sitting at 3, you can take Shedeur or you can take Travis Hunter or potentially an offensive lineman. In my opinion, I think the Giants should probably take Travis Hunter. You get that true number one corner alongside of Debo now. And then you also have Banks, who I mean, could potentially move to the slot, or he could be depth at this point. He didn't play very well last year. So I wouldn't mind that. And then also the 1-2 combo of Malik and Travis Hunter could be exciting to watch, especially if Jameis Winston is out there. He'd be slinging it. But I mean, I think Russ would take the starting role at that point. But it would be exciting for them to take Travis Hunter. I'm not completely opposed to them trading down. Obviously, acquire more picks. Next year's class is probably more quality. Maybe trade down with like the Steelers, I'd say, which would be ironic because we just took the Steelers quarterback. Trade down with the Steelers. I think they're in the mid teens, and then potentially take like an offensive lineman. You could maybe take a defensive tackle. It's kind of where the Giants need a little bit of help. I'm not completely opposed to that. I just feel that Travis Hunter is too good to pass up on at 3. If he plays how he played in college, he is a generational talent. He's an athletic, twitchy corner. He can jump routes. He had like 7 or 8 picks last year. And then also you have obviously the receiving upside, where I don't think he would necessarily play as many snaps as he did in college. He played the entire game basically. I don't think his body will be able to handle that in the NFL. The guys are it's a much more physical game. It's faster, bigger guys hitting you harder. Um, but I do think you can throw him in for some trick plays, like an end around. You can maybe throw some screens, get him the ball. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He can break tackles. He's incredible. What he did in college is I don't think there's ever been a player as dynamic on both sides of the football. And in my opinion, I think he is also the best wide receiver in this draft class. I know some people might argue McMillan out of Arizona, I'm pretty sure. I just don't see a comparison. I think Travis Hunter is a superior athlete and his ball skills are unmatched. So if the Giants were to go third overall, they take Travis Hunter. You might want to be on the lookout for them potentially trading back up into the first round. I know Jackson Dart's a big name that a lot of people are putting out there. Um, with Dart, you're not going to get him in the second round. I don't think there's too many QB needy teams kind of mid to lower in the draft. I think they would have to trade back up into the first round to get it, which you might not want to do considering like the need and also giving up all your assets. The Giants still need some help on the defensive line, they probably need another corner. Um, Offensive line, they need help at probably tackle, guard. You can even argue center if you don't believe in John Michael Schmitz. They could use wide receiver help. They need a wide receiver too. So if they were looking at someone like Dart, they would probably have to trade back up. I do think they'll probably take a high upside quarterback in the second or third round to potentially develop behind Jameis and Russ. Russ is gone after the season. Potentially, he signed a 1 year contract, so we got to see obviously how he plays. Jameis will be around next year most likely, unless the Giants decide to cut him. I think both of these guys would be great for developing a rookie, which is I think the long term plan for the Giants. We have to see what happens after the season. We got to see if Dable and Shane are still the GM and coach. But overall, I give the Russ signing, I give it like a C plus. It's quality. He's a good player still. He's I'm reading the comments. I didn't get the notifications. Yeah, it's all good. So Russ is a good quarterback. He's obviously better than what Daniel Jones put on the field. Daniel Jones, that contract's looking worse and worse, especially after the amount of money they gave both Jameis and Russ combined, who are both arguably better than Daniel Jones. And they're both great developmental quarterbacks that could help your rookie kind of mold and shape and take on the NFL draft. So now the Giants have a Heisman winner, a Super Bowl winner, and they have Tommy Cutlets. So that's the three-headed monster we got going into New York, the 2025 NFL draft or the NFL season and draft. So that's about it for this episode today, guys. I know it's quick, kind of just a brief overview of what happens. The other thing I might want to mention before I end the stream is that Stephon Diggs did sign a contract with the New England Patriots. Overall, I think that was a great signing for them. Drake May has another weapon. He really needed another wide receiver for them in the draft. They're probably going to look towards the offensive line because I know they signed a bunch of defensive guys this offseason. Um, Overall, I give that move a B minus. That's solid. Obviously, Diggs is coming off a torn ACL, so you got to see how far into the season he can start. But he was cooking last season with Stroud over there in Texas. So he's still got it in him. He's just a bit of a diva and will demand the ball. However, he is currently the wide receiver one and by far the best wide receiver on that team. So they will probably force feed him the ball. So that's about everything I wanted to cover today. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of the Russell Wilson signing. Me personally, I'm I'm happy with it. I'm not thrilled. We're not going to win any Super Bowls because of it. However, I do think he's a good character in the locker room, and he does improve the roster immediately. So overall, good signing. I'm happy, and thanks for tuning in.